It's kind of amazing when you think about it. All those stars and galaxies out there makes you wonder, is there anyone else looking back at us?
Right. And that's what we're diving into today.
The Fermi Paradox.
Yeah, it's a pretty big question. Why haven't we found any aliens yet?
Especially with so much space and time for them to have evolved.
Well, that's the paradox, isn't it? I mean, it's not just like a fun thought experiment.
Right.
Statistically speaking, it's a real head scratcher. Think about it.
Okay. They don't.
Billions of stars, many way older than our sun, and probably tons of planets around them.
So statistically.
Statistically, there should be other intelligent life out there somewhere.
But
But the evidence says otherwise, doesn't it?
it's like throwing the biggest party ever.
And
No one shows up.
Exactly. And one of the things you sent me mentioned just how big everything is. Like our galaxy alone, the Milky Way, has hundreds of billions of stars. And that's just one galaxy. Among like billions of others, even if a tiny, tiny fraction of those stars have planets, and a tiny fraction of those have life, and a tiny, tiny fraction of that life is intelligent.
We still shouldn't be alone. Right.
Right. The numbers just don't add up.
But all we hear is silence. So maybe it's just about how spread out everything is.
Yeah, it's like one of the articles you sent said, imagine our galaxy is a giant city.
Okay. I like this analogy.
And our current technology is like shouting across a single block.
So even if there's someone shouting back on the other side of the city.
It would take forever for their message to reach us, traveling at the speed of light.
Centuries even.
Right. So maybe there are signals out there, but they're still on their way. Or maybe they arrived millions of years ago.
When we were just microbes or something.
Something like that. And that kind of connects to another big piece of the puzzle, the Great Filter.
Oh yeah, that was a fascinating read.
The idea is that there's a major obstacle somewhere that stops most life from becoming intelligent and spacefaring, like a bottleneck.
So this filter could be behind us. Right.
Maybe life itself is super rare,
Or intelligent life.
like we're the cosmic lottery winners.
Okay, but what if the filter is ahead of us?
Well, that's where things get a little darker. Maybe there's this pattern where civilizations get advanced, but then they...
They wet themselves out.
Exactly. And that makes you think, about what we're dealing with now. Climate change,
Nuclear weapon?
AI getting out of control, maybe. It's like, are we looking at our own great filter right now?
That's pretty intense.
It is. So it's not just about distance, it's about survival. Can civilizations last long enough to even say hello?
Makes it even trickier. But, okay, what if we're making things harder on ourselves by looking for the wrong things? Like, what if our idea of what aliens would do is just totally off?
That's a great point. We're mostly looking for radio signals, right? Or patterns in light. Stuff that fits with what we know about physics. But what if that's just, like, baby steps compared to what's really out there?
Like we're searching for a radio station with a potato.
Huh. Exactly. What if there's, I don't know, some kind of quantum communication or something we haven't even dreamed up yet?
Well, we could be totally missing the signs then.
It's humbling, right? Makes you realize how much we don't know.
Okay, here's a thought, and maybe this is just my ego talking, but what if they're out there, they know about us, but they're just not impressed?
Like we're the ants and they're just not that interested in talking.
Exactly. We don't spend a lot of time trying to chat with ant colonies, right?
Good point. Maybe we're just not on their radar.
Okay, so we've got the huge distances, the great filter, and maybe our tech just isn't good enough. But there's that other theory, right? The dark forest.
Oh, yeah, that one's a little creepy. Basically, everyone's hiding.
Like a cosmic game of hide and seek, but with, the fate of your entire civilization at stake.
Right. So you're in a dark forest. You don't know who's friendly, who's dangerous. Staying silent seems like a good idea.
Makes sense in a twisted way.
It does. The universe might be a pretty scary place if that's how things work. So maybe everyone's keeping quiet on purpose.
Well, it's not distance or tech, it's deliberate silence.
Exactly. Which makes, our efforts to send out signals.
A little risky.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Just something to think about. So we left off talking about that dark forest idea. Everyone hiding in the cosmic shadows.
Spooky stuff. But, some of the things you sent me about AI and the search for aliens, that's got me feeling a bit more optimistic.
Yeah, AI is a game changer. It can analyze so much data. And imagine, AI that could simulate entire alien societies.
Wait, hold on. Simulate them.
Yeah.
Like build a fake universe with aliens running around.
Basically. We could test all sorts of scenarios, how different civilizations might evolve, how they talk to each other, what they do if they met another species.
That's amazing. It'd be like a laboratory for alien life. We could learn so much, even without actually finding them yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it helped us, get better at searching. Instead of just listening for random radio signals, we could use AI to say, okay, if a super advanced civilization was out there, what kind of traces would they leave? What should we be looking for?
Smart. So we're using AI to think like aliens, but zooming out a bit here, we've talked about distance, the great filter, our tech maybe not being good enough. Where should we focus our efforts? Big picture, I mean.
Well, first off, we got to keep pushing the tech forward. Bigger telescopes, more sensitive instruments, new ways of detecting and analyzing all that data from space.
Casting a wider net, basically. Listening on more frequencies, looking in more places, building tools that can pick up even the faintest whispers from across the universe.
Right. And we need to think outside the box a bit. We've been focused on radio waves and light for so long. But what if that's just a tiny slice of the pie?
Okay, hit me with it. What else is there? How else could they be talking to each other across all that space?
We touched on quantum communication earlier. That's one possibility. Particles link together in a spooky way that lets them communicate instantly, even across light years. But what about, like, gravitational waves?
Whoa, those ripples in space-time, you think aliens could use those to send messages?
It's not impossible. I mean, we've only just started to detect them ourselves. Imagine what a civilization millions of years ahead of us could do.
Right, it's like, we're cavemen trying to understand the internet, basically.
Exactly. Our understanding of physics could be incredibly primitive compared to what's really possible. We got to be open to that.
This is all so mind-blowing. But one thing that keeps popping into my head is, even with all this amazing tech, the search could take, like, generations, right? Our lifespans are so short compared to the timescales the universe works on.
Absolutely. Patience is key here. The universe doesn't operate on human time. We might not see the answers in our lifetime.
So it's a long game, a legacy we pass down to future generations. But it's a game worth playing, right?
Totally. Finding even one other civilization would be the biggest discovery ever. It would change everything.
Okay, so we've talked science, tech, but there's this whole philosophical side to this, right? We're talking about life beyond Earth, the meaning of intelligence, our place in this giant cosmic picture. It's a lot to take in.
It is. The Fermi Paradox takes all those big questions philosophers have been wrestling with forever and throws gasoline on the fire. Are we alone? What are we even doing here? Does any of this have meaning if we are alone? And if we're not alone, that changes everything we thought we knew.
Yeah, it's like, imagine finding out we've been living in a snow globe this whole time.
Great analogy. Our whole worldview would be shattered. Religions, philosophies, everything. And on a personal level, it'd make you wonder, like, who am I? What's my purpose now?
It's overwhelming, but also kind of exciting. So much more to learn, to explore. Like the universe is handing us this blank page and saying, okay, what are you going to do with it?
It's a challenge. And maybe a little scary, too. How do we prepare for that kind of mind shift if we find aliens, especially if they're way different from us? I mean, all those sci-fi movies about first contact going wrong makes you think.
Right. So how do we get ready for that? How do we make sure it goes well?
Well, got to be careful, obviously, but also optimistic, Maybe these other civilizations are not just more advanced technologically, but also ethically, morally.
So approach it with humility, respect, not just for them, but for ourselves too.
Exactly. We got to be ready to learn from them, just like we'd hope they'd learn from us. And we should start thinking now about how to do first contact right. It's not too early for that.
Because this isn't just about satisfying our curiosity or proving we're not alone. It's bigger than that.
It's about understanding life itself, what it means to be alive, to be intelligent in this vast, amazing universe.
Wow. Okay, this has been incredible so far. But there's another side to this whole thing we haven't even touched on yet. What if we're not alone, but they're deliberately ignoring us?
The zoo hypothesis. Like we're in some cosmic exhibit, being watched by unseen alien scientists.
Kind of creepy, right? But why? Why study us if they're not going to talk to us?
Maybe they're protecting us, like we're too young, too fragile to handle contact yet.
So they're like cosmic parents, keeping us safe from ourselves?
Possibly. Or maybe we're just not that interesting, too primitive, too different. Not worth the effort.
Okay, that hurts a little, but I guess it's like, we don't go around trying to have deep conversations with ants, right?
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Shows just how big the gap might be between us and them. Maybe our signals are like ants trying to get our attention with twigs and pebbles. We just don't notice.
So advanced aliens could be all around us, but they're staying hidden, either for our sake or because they just don't care. Humbling, to say the least.
It is. Makes you think, if we found a less advanced civilization on another planet, what would WE do?
That's a tough one. Depends on a lot of things. Their tech, their culture, how violent they are.
Right. We need to be having that conversation now before it's too late.
Because the Fermi Paradox isn't just a fun brain teaser. It's about how we see ourselves in the universe. It's about responsibility.
It really holds a mirror up to us, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All our hopes, fears, assumptions.
And by trying to solve it, we might learn as much about ourselves as we do about aliens.
Exactly.
So here we are, the final part of our deep dive into the Fermi Paradox. It's been quite a journey, all these theories, all these possibilities. It's enough to make your head spin.
It really is.
Yeah.
And even after all this discussion, I still feel like we're just scratching the surface. The universe is full of mysteries, and this one is a real doozy.
Totally agree. So before we wrap things up, I'm curious to get your big picture take on all this. We've explored so many different explanations for the Great Silence. Which ones resonate most with you? Which ones seem like the most likely answers?
You know, it's hard to say for sure. Each theory has its own appeal, its own logic. I mean, they could all be contributing in some way, right?
Mm.
But for me, I keep coming back to the sheer scale of the universe and the implications of that great filter we talked about.
Right, the idea that even if life is relatively common out there, maybe there's this cosmic bottleneck that prevents most civilizations from reaching a certain level of, I don't know, sophistication.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Even if we're not alone, the distances involved are just astronomical. We're talking about light years between stars, thousands of years for a signal to travel even within our own galaxy.
So even if there are other civilizations out there broadcasting, the odds of them being close enough for us to pick up their signals and at a similar point in their technological development, it starts to seem pretty unlikely.
Right. And then you add in the possibility that maybe most civilizations just don't make it that far. They hit a wall, they self-destruct. Or maybe the challenges of interstellar travel are just too great to overcome. It's kind of a humbling thought.
It is. Makes you appreciate how precious our own existence is, but it also makes you wonder if we're headed for that same fate. All the problems we're facing, climate change, the risk of nuclear war, AI potentially getting out of control.
Mm.
Kind of scary.
No doubt about it. It definitely raises the stakes, makes you realize that the choices we make today could have implications not just for our own future, but for the future of intelligent life in the universe, potentially.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot to ponder. But let's shift gears for a second and indulge in a bit of what-if thinking. Let's say, hypothetically, against all odds, we do find undeniable evidence of another civilization. What do you think that would do to humanity? How would we react?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? A question that has captivated people's imaginations for centuries. I think it would be a seismic event, unlike anything in human history. It would touch every aspect of our lives, our cultures, our religions, our understanding of ourselves, and our place in the universe.
Right, it'd be a total game changer. I mean, would it bring us together as a species, or would it tear us apart?
Hard to say. It'd probably be a bit of both, honestly. I think there'd be a lot of fear, confusion, maybe even panic in some quarters. People's belief systems might be shattered, their sense of security shaken. But at the same time, I think there'd also be this incredible surge of curiosity, excitement, maybe even a sense of hope, a feeling of connection to something bigger than ourselves.
It would definitely challenge our human-centered view of things, wouldn't it? The idea that we're special, that we're the only intelligent beings in the universe.
Absolutely. It would force us to reevaluate everything, our values, our priorities, our place in the grand scheme of things. It could spark a renaissance in science, art, philosophy, as we struggle to make sense of this new reality.
It'd be like hitting the reset button on human history.
Yeah, in a way. A chance to redefine ourselves, to rewrite our story as a species.
Okay, so as we wrap up this amazing deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you'd want our listeners to walk away with?
I think it's important to remember that the Fermi Paradox isn't a dead end. It's not a sign that we're alone or that the universe is a cold, empty place. It's an invitation to keep searching, to keep questioning, to keep our minds open to the infinite possibilities that are out there.
It's about embracing the mystery, right? Acknowledging that we don't have all the answers, and that's okay.
Exactly. It's about the journey, the exploration, the constant striving to understand more about ourselves and the universe we inhabit.
Beautifully said. The Fermi Paradox reminds us that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves, and that there's so much more out there to discover. It's a call to adventure, a challenge to keep pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and imagination.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Who knows what the future holds? Maybe someday we'll find those answers we're looking for. Or maybe we'll stumble upon something even more profound, something that changes our understanding of the universe in ways we can't even imagine right now.
That's the beauty of it, right? The universe is full of surprises. So, to everyone listening out there, thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. Keep looking up, keep asking questions, and never stop exploring.